Grace and peace to the chat. I see some of y'all are already popping in, and yeah, I guess if y'all have been keeping up with the Caleb Wilson story, you already know exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. But I did have a couple people say, "Hey, are you going to discuss that?" And honestly, it's just something that's so sad. You wish that you never had to talk about these things. But since I've been, talking about Greek life from a Christian perspective for a couple years now and done a lot of videos on it, I felt like it's definitely something worth discussing. I know there's a lot of hurting people tonight because of this tragedy, and yeah, it's just so sad to see someone pass away so young, especially for something like this. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But before we get into it, I do want to say hello to everyone who's in the chat so far. Hello, AC. Hello, Stevie. What's up? The winning walk with Christina. That's a lovely picture, Christina. I love that. Who else is in here? Chris, appreciate you being here, bro. Rashawn, what's up? Rashawn is always here to make the live chat fun. Timothy C, hello, hello. Okay, so I guess maybe I should start off by catching people up who may not be aware of Caleb Wilson, and exactly what happened. Now, there's still an investigation going on, but in a nutshell, there was reports last week of a 20-year-old college student who had collapsed at a hazing ritual, and he apparently passed away at the hospital. And then I think it was yesterday or the day before, it come to find out, it sounds like the fraternity has been withholding information about some of the details of it. So tonight, basically what I'm going to do is just kind of share the news stories about what's going on. And y'all let me know if my sound is okay, because it looks like it might be a little bit low. Let me know if it's too loud or too low, because I want y'all to be able to hear me. But let's just go ahead and play some clips and see what the news is saying about all this, because this is pretty heartbreaking. All right. Well, okay, before we even do that, Twitter, or what used to be Twitter now X, that's really where you stay up to date on all the stuff that's going on. But this is Caleb Wilson. Y'all can see, of course, from the thumbnail, but people have been just celebrating his life and just talking about the event. It looks like he was a renowned musician. He was in the band. He was at Southern University. Very handsome young man. Everyone who talked about him had nothing but good things to say about him. So again, sorry, y'all can't see that because let's see, can I scroll up? No, I can't scroll up. Sorry. So yeah, I was just looking through Twitter to see. I keep saying Twitter. I don't even use Twitter anymore, but I was just scrolling through here to see if there was any updates. But I hadn't really seen anything that was really different from what I saw reported yesterday. But let's look at the little news story and see what they're saying about this whole ordeal.
Live and local from WAFB. This is 9 News at 6.
Good evening to you, friends. Greg and Liz here with you. First from our WFBI team tonight, the warehouse where Southern University student Caleb Wilson collapsed and died following that fraternity ritual is co-rented by a Baton Rouge elected official. That official is Metro Councilman Cleve Dunn Jr.
He told the I-Team today he had no idea the police was involved until we told him about it. Chief Investigator Chris Nakamoto broke these details today on the 9 News app. He joins us now with more on what he learned and the latest in the investigation. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Liz and Greg. District Attorney Hiller Moore says a number of individuals who were present the night Caleb Wilson collapsed and died have been interviewed by detectives, and more were interviewed today. Tonight, the I-Team went looking for answers at the last place where Caleb Wilson was seen alive. Tucked away off Greenville Springs Road, this unassuming large white building is the warehouse where sources say Caleb Wilson collapsed and had a seizure after getting punched in the chest during an unsanctioned off-campus fraternity ritual for Omega Psi-Phi. The building bears the name Runner's Courier and California Hardwood on the front door. A number of other workers pointed us to that location after seeing detectives floating around and asking questions this week as the investigation plays out.
We want everyone that has any knowledge to come forward. Surely we have several pledges that were there that are not implicated in any criminal wrongdoing to my knowledge. We need them to come forward and tell us what happened. Anybody that has knowledge about anyone being complicit at all in this case. We want the truth. We want it for the parents.
While police investigate, Southern also opened a hazing investigation. Hazing is illegal in the state of Louisiana, and our hazing laws were beefed up following the death of LSU student Max Groover. In 2017, Groover drank himself to death at a fraternity house. In the wake of his death in 2018, the Louisiana legislature passed the Max Groover Act, instituting statewide hazing definitions and penalties. "20-year-old Southern student Caleb Wilson was a member of the world-famous Human Jukebox and an engineering student. His life cut short last week, and sources say a cover-up ensued. Initially, fraternity members told police that Wilson Tuesday that was a lie.
Initially, it was told.
I don't know why it cut out right there, but basically they said originally that he collapsed in a park. So that was the original story. But then come to find out they weren't at the park. They were at this warehouse doing fraternity rituals. And that is where it was disclosed that he didn't just collapse. He was punched in the chest, and then he collapsed, and then he started to seize, and then he was taken to the hospital.
That they were at a brick park, and we learned yesterday that that wasn't the case whatsoever. They were actually at a warehouse. Obstructions also possibly on the table for this.
So yeah, that would really be dependent on what a witness actually said. So I don't want to comment on what witnesses said or didn't say, but surely there is the possibility that someone obstructed or attempted to obstruct justice, and maybe more than one way than others.
But they were never at that park to begin with.
Correct. To our knowledge, there was never any park involved.
So I've heard stories like this before. When somebody gets hurt at a hazing ritual or set or whatever they call it, a lot of people freak out. They panic. Sometimes, people, their first thing is to, I'm just going to leave and just act like I was never here. Y'all better not snitch, that kind of stuff going on. So sometimes people don't get the help that they need because those who are involved in the whole situation are just terrified. So it sounds like this cop is saying, listen, if you were a pledge online that night, then you are not in any kind of trouble. So they're really dependent on these pledges who were never initiated to kind of speak up. But I'm not sure, hopefully they are participating and trying to, be honest about what happened. I don't know where they are in the investigation at this point. But yeah, a lot of times I've heard these stories over and over again. They do these hazing rituals, people get scared, and then the person a lot of times could have survived if someone had called the cops, if someone had taken the person to the hospital. So in this case, I'm not sure if that was the case. It sounds like, I'm assuming they did take him to the hospital. I don't know who took him, but anyway, sorry, let's continue.
Whatsoever in this case at all.
The I-team connected the dots between the warehouse and two of the men renting space at the warehouse. Councilman Cleve Dunn is one of them. He told me, the fact that I had to find out from you, I should have gotten a call. He went on to say, I'm very disappointed, and I had no idea this happened at the warehouse space that I sublease. My deepest condolences are extended to Caleb Wilson's family, and my wife and I are having discussions with our two daughters in college, friends and parents in this community about the importance of safety and social responsibility. Dunn put us in touch with Todd Smith, who also rents space there and is the owner of California Hardwood. Todd Smith tells me that his son is an Omega, and detectives came by asking questions this week. As all sides try to piece together what happened, leaders promise to get to the bottom of it for the sake of Wilson's grieving family and a community demanding answers.
Communicating with the parents is difficult because it's a very tragic thing where your son is supposed to go home with a black cap and gown, not in a black bag. But that's really hard for parents to accept, particularly this is a really good family that we're dealing with, a good kid, smart kid. Can't imagine the phone call that he received.
The initial autopsy for Wilson came back inconclusive. Further testing is being done to determine his exact cause of death. The fraternity members involved could face hazing charges all the way up to manslaughter charges, depending on what the investigation reveals. For the WAFB team, I'm Chris Nakamoto. Greg, Liz.
Such a tough one, Chris. Thank you.
All right. So, sorry. not supposed to be looking at me quite yet, but we're going to go back through some of my old footage where I've been talking about this stuff. So that is unfortunately what happened to Caleb. I do hope that they get to the bottom of it, because I'm curious. But I did kind of just want to share my own personal story with feeling the pressure to join a Greek organization on a college campus. And I did a video about this maybe 2 years ago. And, I was just sharing how when I was at school, like, I think by the time I hit my sophomore year, most of my friends who I knew from my hometown were gone, like, for a lot of different reasons. Some of them just didn't make the cut. Some of them transferred to other schools. Like, it was just a lot of different things going on. So I was always looking for that community. And I didn't have a church. Like, I remember there was a church right around the corner from the school that basically, like, that's where all the black kids went, and that's where all the fraternities and sororities went too. But I never liked the church because I knew they weren't teaching sound doctrine. The only reason I knew that is because I actually read my Bible. Like, I've been reading my Bible since I was 12. So I was like, this is a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. Hated that church. So I would go sometimes, but it just didn't feel like church. So college was just kind of a weird season for me. And so I thought that joining a sorority would, be a good way to get friends and get popularity and all this kind of stuff. But I went to, I think, the interest meeting, and then there's like another thing you have to go to. I can't remember the process or whatever, but in a nutshell, I went to this meeting, and I learned quickly that I was probably not going to be one of the people selected. And I just remember the rejection it was just really bad, especially I think I was either a junior or senior. So like, this was my last opportunity, and I just felt like, oh man, like, these people don't like me. They don't want me. And it was a pretty, like, it hurt my feelings a lot. Now in hindsight, I'm like, learning the stuff or the statistics about, hazing and just really how vulnerable you can be, particularly as a female being in a sorority on a college campus. Now I'm like, man, maybe God was protecting me. Not to say that any of the girls I went to school with had anything like especially tragic happen, but if you've seen any of my prior presentations on Greek life, I did one where I was just talking about how women in sororities who live in a sorority house are like 3 times more likely to get SA'd. Y'all know what SA'd is by now, I hope. If not, Google it. Just living in the house. Men in fraternities are like 3 times more likely to SA women. And so, it really does put women in a very, very vulnerable position to think, like, you get into these fraternities and sororities, there's a lot of alcohol, there's partying. Not to say that everything that they do is bad or that these aren't, people who are actually good people, but that culture is very, it's a party type of culture. And so you mix alcohol and, just kind of a sinful atmosphere overall, like, bad things can happen. So I just praise God for so many different reasons that I didn't make the cut. But I said all that to say, for one, if you're in college right now and you feel like you don't fit in, or that if you don't get into this organization that means you're less of a person, don't listen to that. That's just not true. I came out of college just fine, and I didn't need an organization to, accomplish really good things in life. And so I hope that encourages somebody, because I know the pressure is like, it's really, it can be a big deal, especially if you don't have, or if you have low self-esteem, or if you don't feel like you have community or whatever, then you just want to jump into something and you might not even realize what you're getting involved in. And then when you think about too, these hazing situations can be so dangerous because you got a lot of, young 20 somethings. And I know when you're 19 and 20, you feel like you're a lot more mature and you got life figured out, and, you're kind of invincible. But when there's like, I guess, this power dynamic and the secrecy and this fear of getting caught and also wanting to be accepted, an innocent hazing ritual can really turn dangerous really fast. And that's why we keep seeing these unfortunate tragic deaths happen. So, I wish this one hadn't happened. I did a video about hazing, I think maybe 2 years ago, and I said, I'm trying to save a life. I jokingly, flippantly said that, and I rewatched it today. I'm like, man, it's just so senseless. But okay, so I wanted to get into another another video where y'all probably know who Roland Martin is. Roland Martin and Ricky Jones got into a little debate about the issue of hazing and how to fix it, and whether or not, fraternities should just kind of come to an end. So I did want to play this clip. This is kind of interesting. Let me put it on. Let's see. 1.5 speed. Hopefully y'all can catch up. But let's go ahead and go there. Let's see where we at. Okay.
The marching band has been suspended from performing since Robert Champion's death. Now, as Jason mentioned, both he and Bria Hunter are believed to belong to this subgroup in the band called the Red Dog Order, which is made up of band members from Georgia. There are other groups, each kind of enforcing its own brand of discipline, each kind of fraternity unto itself. Let's talk about it more with Professor Ricky Jones, director of the Center on Race and Inequality at the University of Louisville, and author of Black Haze, Violence, Sacrifice, and Manhood in Black Greek Letter Fraternities. Also joining us, CNN analyst Roland Martin. Professor, a university like Florida A&M, they say they have this no hazing policy, but clearly it's an open secret that this is happening. How much does a school, do they know about what's going on? How much do they care about actually stopping it?
Well, I won't say how much they care about it, but let's cut to the chase. Everybody at that school, from the band director to the students to the administrators all the way to the president, they know that this is a practice that goes on in these bands. It also goes on in Black Greek letter organizations, which the bands are mimicking. They're very clear on that. When they say they don't know about it, they're either lying or they should be fired for negligence. This is going on throughout the South at HBCUs. It's going on at predominantly white universities where they're Black Greek letter organizations. Clearly, the policies do not work, and you're having people injured around the country, and you're having people killed. And so what the bands, what other organizations are really saying to these schools and these administrators is, this is the way we do things, this is the way we've always done things, and this is the way we're going to continue to do things. And so as an administrator or even an elected official in a state that's concerned about this, the question is, what are you going to do with these organizations once you take that into account?
So, Roland, what can be done? I mean, is this something that's just existed through the years at these schools and is always going to exist?
Well, first.
Okay, let me pause right there just for a second and kind of check in and see. Apparently, I froze for a second, so I'm so sorry, you guys. Hopefully, I wasn't frozen for too long. They're not your friends. Okay, let's go back. What's so great about frats and sororities anyway? You know what, AC Pure? I'm going to read a little bit towards the end of the show to kind of give some context for why in the world people want to do this in the first place. What's up, Tyler Lott? What's up, bro? Elizabeth says certain chapters are known for their violent intake processes and people wear those chapters as a badge of honor. That's so true. That is very true. Rashawn says getting branded with a hot iron is pretty extreme. Yeah, I would say so. And Rashawn knows that some of these fraternities, they brand you. So I know the Omegas do the branding and the Sigmas do the branding. It just, I guess when they turn out good, they look okay. But when they turn out bad, boy, do they look really, really bad. Okay, we can get back to the clip now. I'm sorry.
First of all, with all due respect to the professor, I think you have to broaden this conversation. It goes beyond HBCUs. It goes beyond Black Greek letter fraternities and sororities. Look, I'm a graduate of Texas A&M University. 2 years ago, 2 members of our Texas A&M Corps cadets were charged for hazing. In 1984, a Corps cadet actually died going through some exercises. What you have here, so you have historically white fraternities and sororities, but you have hazing as well. Hazing is about culture. It is about institutions where you largely have young folks who are in control of these institutions, and so they are doing what they need to do. You have two things going on. You have also alumni members, graduate members, who have a belief that if you want to go through what I went through, I have a great appreciation of you as a member. So if you don't go through it, then I don't regard you in the same way. So that kind of peer pressure is applied. I still have people right now on my Facebook and Twitter page saying that, well, if you're a paper member of a fraternity, if you didn't go through that sort of test that I went through. What is needed is obviously for peers. You can have all the rules in place, but Anderson, but you have to have peers who are saying, I cannot allow this because you're not going to tarnish our reputation and put us in jeopardy by your actions. That's the most important aspect of this.
Professor, do you believe hazing is worse in African-American colleges and fraternities than it is in non-predominantly African-American ones?
Yes, and that's what I was about to say with all due respect to Roland. I'm not saying that hazing does not exist in other organizations, but the physical brand of hazing that we encounter, and I've been researching this for over 20 years at this point. I attended the U.S. Naval Academy before I transferred to Morehouse College, so I went through the plebe experience, I went through the fraternity experience, and then I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. What you're saying, yes, you do have hazing in white groups, but you find a lot of alcohol abuse and pranks going on in those groups. There are no registered student organizations at HBCUs or at predominantly white schools where we, with the frequency that we see with this, find the levels of physical abuse in Black Greek letter organizations and in HBCU bands.
Okay, and Ricky Jones can speak on this because he actually has done a lot of research on hazing. He wrote a book called Black Haze that was really helpful in me researching Greek life, and the religious aspects, but especially the hazing. So basically what he said was, of course, hazing occurs in all different types of groups, even groups outside of fraternities and sororities. But there's a difference typically, stereotypically, but also I think factually, like the white fraternities and sororities are more known for the alcohol overindulgence. So a lot of them die because they, they consume too much alcohol, or sometimes it's water, whatever, or these pranks and stuff. So that's typically how hazing deaths occur in those organizations. And Black fraternities and sororities, paddling is a huge, it's just a horrible way. Basically, Black folks have been known to beat each other to death in these hazing rituals.
We just don't find it.
But wait, hold on. And Professor, are you saying that for the bands at a school like Florida A&M, that behavior has sort of migrated from or been learned from the fraternity, and the band is kind of mirroring that fraternity?
Yes, because at HBCUs, if you go to any college campus around this country, the most popular people are usually the athletes and the fraternity members, fraternities of the Greeks. If you go to HBCUs, you have a third element there. You have athletes, but to a much lower level than at the PWIs. You have Greeks and you have band members. People don't go to HBCU games to see the football game. They go to see the bands. And let me be clear, I'm not saying this happens at all HBCUs and all HBCU bands. It is predominant at HBCUs where the bands are a very desirable commodity. The FAMUs, Southerns, Jackson States of the world. And this is why, I worked with Frank DeFord on that story on HBO last year. And there was an incredible blowback from the Black community accusing the people at HBO of prejudice and myself of being misinformed. And now we have somebody dead. And I said then, it's not a question of when, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when somebody else will be injured or killed. And this is what we're dealing with.
And let me just show for our viewers, HBCU is historically Black colleges, universities.
And the PWI is predominantly white institution.
Right.
Anderson, for me, this is not a debate about an HBCU predominantly white institution. I'm looking at a story right now for the Bryan College Eagle, where in 2002, some cavalry members of the Texas A&M Corps Cadets beat six students with axe handles and used horse manure and water on students who misbehaved. So you know what? Texas A&M, predominantly white institution. My point is, regardless of whether you're a predominantly white institution or an HBCU, what is required to confront hazing, you clearly have to have state laws where people understand you could go to jail if you're engaged in this behavior. But secondly, and most importantly, you have to have individuals who say, we're not going to allow this culture to go forward. When I pledged in the spring of 1989, Alpha Phi Alpha, I made it clear to my line brothers, I'm not getting beat by somebody. It's not going to happen. But here's what was interesting. When I went to my national convention that summer and we talked about hazing, I had some brothers in the chapter who said, hey man, don't tell anybody you didn't get hazed or you didn't get any wood, which is mean paddling, because it may not come out right. And I said, wait a minute, if we pledge men the right way, why should we not say it? And so that is a culture. You have to have people in bands, in fraternities, and sororities look at somebody else and say, you might be my brother or my sister or a band member, but you're not going to do that. You're not going to jeopardize us by your actions. That's what is required. And we need young people coming in these bands saying, I'm not taking a beating simply because I want to play an instrument. This is also trickling down to the high school level. How do I know, Anderson? Because I went through this in 1984 when some folks said, you're going to get beat because you're in a band. I said, no, I'm not. It's not going to happen.
Professor,
and I've gone through this stuff, with all due respect, Roland, none of that has worked. None of that has worked. Not policy changes, not this approach to individual psychology. The point is these students want to belong. And this is a culture. Now, I do agree, we're not fundamentally disagreeing, but the culture is so deeply entrenched that there is no way to dismantle it. So this is the argument that I'm making, and not many people are making this argument. I'm simply saying that no policy, no laws. Remember, hazing is a felony in the state of Florida. I had some of my fraternity brothers in at this very same school go to jail a few years ago because of hazing. It cannot be stopped. So the next question is, when are university officials and legal officials going to take steps to disband these organizations across the board?
Disorganization is not just it. That's not it, because in our society right now, burglaries take place. There is no other option. In our society, burglaries, homicides take place. We have deterrence as a part of that. So for some folks say death penalty, life imprisonment. The reality is, when you have individuals, we can talk about police brutality, where people protect their own police forces. We have a natural thing, a way of life in our country where we protect institutions. People are afraid to be a whistleblower or being ostracized by the people in the corporation. What I'm saying is, you got to have procedures in place. You might not say, I can't end it all, but you can at least stop a lot of it if you take a hard line towards it.
Professor Jones, you're saying you got to disband the organization.
Exactly. They've taken hard lines since policy changes in 1990 throughout Panhandle and in different schools with HBCU bands. It simply has not worked. So do you disband police forces and police brutality? No, that's apples and oranges. I'm saying we cannot let emotion get in the way of the facts, and the facts are that nobody's been able to stop this to date. And so if we want to save black lives in these organizations and other lives, we get rid of these organizations. But this is a particularly black problem.
No, it's
the
not.
way it's manifested itself in these organizations. I absolutely disagree. Not in this level.
Well, I went to predominantly white schools. I pretty much know.
I went to both. I appreciate both your perspectives. I want to continue this conversation because it's a really good one, an important one to have. We will have you on both again.
So basically, Roland Martin was like, listen, there ain't no point in getting rid of these organizations just because every once in a while things get out of hand. And Ricky was like, there's no way to fix this because it is how our organizations work. That's how they operate. It's the heart of it. And I agree with Ricky Jones. I think because hazing has been a part of these orgs for so long, and that's kind of the draw of it, because people want to feel like, I was able to accomplish something that a lot of people can't. I was able to get picked when a lot of other people didn't. And then, so if your whole motivation for joining this is so you can stand out, and then you have to, often go through some kind of process. I know everybody doesn't get hazed anymore, but it still happens enough where it's just like, it's still part of the culture, right? So if you are saying, okay, I want to do this, but the only way for them to really accept me is if I go through this process, then of course I'm going to go through the process. And who actually thinks that they are going to be the one to not go home at night or not be able to make it to graduation or see the next day? I think most people just think, I'm safe. These are my peers. I go to philosophy class with this one. This one sings in the choir with me. This one is on the band with me. So nothing's going to happen but until things happen. So I think that's one reason why people are like, the jail sentences and all that. Sure, if you get caught, you can go to jail, but we won't get caught because we won't let it get out of hand. But it keeps getting out of hand. Man, who was it? Hank Noor. Hank Noor actually wrote. Can y'all see this? Hazing. This is a jewel right here. Hank Noor is a scholar on hazing. Yes, there are scholars who research hazing, just like Ricky Jones is basically a scholar on hazing, and he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi too. But he said up until 2020, someone passed away from hazing every single year for like 50 years straight. And of course, 2020 was the C word. So they had to kind of, figure some things out as far as how they were going to do membership intake. But now so now it's 2025. I can't remember if anyone has passed away from a Black fraternity but since 2020 to now up until Caleb. But yeah. So hazing takes a life basically every single year. And I didn't think Roland's comparing fraternities to the police department. We all know like things go on in the police department too, but we need cops. Like you don't need fraternities and sororities. You really don't. I mean, I understand they're a huge part of Black history. I'm probably not even going to talk about the religious stuff tonight. I don't like fraternities and sororities for a lot of different reasons, specifically the religious component. But tonight we're talking about the hazing component because it really is dangerous. And again, it's just this young man losing his life over nothing is just sad. All right, let me go in this live chat right now and see what y'all talking about. Okay, winning walk. I'll just call you Christina because of the conviction. Deep down, they know it's wrong. Maybe if I scroll up, I'll get some context because I missed some things. What's up, brother Willie Doc? It's good to see you, bro. Cortasia. Is it Cortasia? That's a pretty name. Let me make that a little bit larger. Pretty much every famous person is a part of some type of Greek organization. It reminds me of when Satan told Jesus, if he bows, he'll give them all the riches of the world. This just shows the cost of bowing. There are definitely a lot of people who are joining these organizations. Some of them, they get the honorary. The Greeks, they love famous people too, right? Because it makes them look good. And I said I wasn't going to talk about no religious stuff, but it's like, they look for the people who are going to make them look good. They don't want the rejects. That's why they'll call you a GDI if you're not a part of the organization. I can't say what GDI means, but, it's a GD individual. So if you're not a part of a Greek organization, you a GDI. And who wants to be called that, right? So anyway, I said all that to say that they seek out athletes and actresses and supermodels and all these kind of things, people that are going to make them look good. But then they say they're about the uplift of the community. And I'm like, no, you're really not. You're really about appearances. And I just feel like they kind of, this is my theory, and I could absolutely be wrong about this, but I kind of feel like nationals be using, these young, attractive, smart, popular college kids to brand the organization so that they can get thousands of dollars out of these kids. Because the kids, what the kids want to do, wear the clothes and do the strolls. Man, that sounds like a t-shirt itself. Wear the clothes and do the strolls. That's really the heart behind why most college students want to do this stuff. It looks cool. So you'll spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And these just for the Black organizations. The white organizations, you're paying a lot more than that. But you're spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 just to get initiated. So you can wear clothes, stroll, and sometimes pick up trash on the side of the road and then brag to people about it. To me, the math ain't mathing. Now, when I was in college, it did math. But now that I'm out of college, I'm like, what was I thinking? Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show was I wanted to do a quick little flashback because I interviewed a member of Omega Psi Phi, or ex-member of Omega Psi Phi, about 2 or 3 years ago. Y'all probably seen this if you've been hanging around for a while. But Shahid was nice enough to share his experience, and he showed us some pretty bad pictures of what he looked like after he went through his initiation. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that again for those who may not have seen it. Let's see where we at right here. Okay. I'm glad you brought the hazing back up because you sent me some pictures that were pretty disturbing. Shahid sent me some pictures of what he looked like. Was this immediately after initiation?
Yeah, these pictures came right after initiation. You can be hazing this way or any other ways, you know. So it's not like, you know, these bruises and stuff happen on one night throughout the whole entire process. This happens multiple times. This just happened to be the day I took the pictures.
So if you can't take this, then turn away for a quick second. But here they are. So these are pretty bad. I mean, when you sent this to me originally, I could not believe it. I honestly could not believe it.
Yeah, it's and you can kind of see like if you I don't know if you can zoom in, but on that left picture,
Mhm.
you can almost see like a big handprint like towards the middle. So this is only hands, you know, being slapped against your body, etc. You know,
Mhm.
and people of my skin complexion are a lot more sensitive. This is a lot more visible, but this is just being slapped left and right, you know, with different hands, etc. And some people, you know, I mean, it can get a lot worse than that. You know, you get hit in your legs, you know, with different stuff, different items at times. You know, even another form of hazing is, you know, just a more common form of hazing is being paddled on the butt. So your
Mhm.
butt can look just as bad as that does, you know, if not worse. For people like myself, it may be so bruised it's blue or green, you know, or you
Yeah.
can develop blood clots, etc. So it gets pretty tense, you know.
Man, I can't believe that was 3 years ago. Y'all make sure if you haven't watched that, please go watch the full video. And looks like I got a super chat from Brother Willie. Thank you so much, Willie. Let's see what Willie got to say. Oh, okay. How about maybe if I go here, then I can see it. Okay. Thanks for exposing the truth. These organizations are so problematic on so many levels. The movie Burning Sands is true to life. It is crazy because they're comparing what happened to Caleb a lot to what happened in that movie Burning Sands. Burning Sands came out, and I think they said 2017. That movie was dark. It was really sad. And honestly, all of the depictions I've seen of Black Greek life underground, it's almost like watching a horror movie for real. I'm my chest be pounding like this. And even my own personal experience, I didn't do a D9 organization, but I did like a business fraternity in college, and they never beat us or anything like that. It was more so just kind of like the mental games, or kind of asking you questions, kind of making you feel stupid sometimes. And we definitely had to do the thing where you stand in a line. I don't know. Maybe the longest we stood in line was like an hour or two, but they just ask you all these questions about the fraternity history and all these different little things. And I felt safe at the time. I think ultimately I was safe, but even that was a form of hazing. That was what our university said. Like, you're not supposed to be standing people up in lines. And hey, the next semester, when it was our turn to do the same thing, we did the same thing too. So it's like it's a cycle. People do want to see what happened to me. Well, now I get to see this happen to somebody else. And so praise God that nothing crazy happened when I was there. But you know, this stuff again can get super, super dangerous. So anyway, thank you. Thank you so much, Will. Okay, now Shahid talked about his getting slapped and all this kind of stuff, but there was another thing I wanted to show. Where did I put it? I hope I still have it up here. Okay. So I interviewed Shahid, and then I also interviewed Brother Pete. Brother Pete talked about his experience getting paddled, and I think y'all should be able to handle this. But if you kind of squeamish, just be aware that this one's gonna get it goes a little bit deeper. But there's no pictures on this one. Okay.
And my line brother was in the house and they got me from work and I had on dress pants and they just snatched me from work, threw me in the car and me and him went to this house straight to the cut. And when we went in the cut, I got so much wood, but not with no regular jeans on. I had these dress pants on that my behind started bleeding. So the blood was coming through the pants. So they stopped me from getting wood. And then my line brother, he took all the, and when I say wood, I'm talking about 4 strokes, manhood scholarship, perseverance, uplift for everybody on the line before we pledged. And it was like 15 or 12 of them dudes. So I went through like, I think 6 of them until I started bleeding. And then he went through for both of us, all of that. And I watched him get up after about 8 or 9 strokes. And I saw a tear, like he cried, but he wasn't crying. It was just and then he went back down. He never came back up and they kept beating him, but he was just a hardcore Bamberg, South Carolina brother. And I watched him stay in the cut for all of that wood, 80 strokes or so.
80 strokes, okay? 80 strokes. Look at me with my little pixie cut. Man, sorry. That was an old video. No, that I think this was from like 2 years ago. Anyway, so it's a shame that we still talking about this stuff years later, you know. And I took a lot of criticism for doing a deep dive on this, but I can honestly say, like, I feel like I'm on the right side of history, right? Because if my position did not lead someone to lose their life, meanwhile, you got a lot of Christians who are like, no, it's not that big of a deal. People don't steal haze. People don't steal haze? Or come on. People are definitely still hazing. All right. So Brother Pete talked about his experience, but there is something even a lot worse that I heard today. This video is not safe for viewing or listening. There's some pictures in this next one that this is pretty bad. Okay. I'll say that. Sorry. Let me go here before I transition to the next one. The pictures are pretty bad, but this is someone who he's speaking out now because he experienced the paddling and he showed the aftermath of what happened after he got beat extensively and had to get surgery. And he's got a pretty foul mouth. So just be forewarned. We'll see how much we get through this. But his channel name is Cultured Unplugged. I'm not going to play the whole video because I want y'all, if y'all want to watch his whole video, I don't want to take any more views from him. Looks like this video is doing pretty good. So I'm not trying to steal his views, but I do want to share a few clips. Okay. Where are we going to go? We're going to start. Ooh. I'm sorry. It was even hard for me to see this, but okay. Right here. Gird your loins.
Easy viral when people went out there and shared it and all that stuff and watched it, and I hope I saved someone's life. But I don't tell this story for clout. I don't tell my story try to get money. I'm just trying to tell my story because young people need to know when they're going to a PWI, HBCU, the dangers of what hazing really is. I want to start sharing some pictures actually that are very, very graphic. So if you have no stomach to watch it, you can go ahead and just pause the video and click off. But essentially, if you're at this point and you're still watching, that means you still want to see what the dangers of what hazing can do. As I remember talking about in an earlier video, the first video on this subject, I had essentially removal of tissue from my ass cheek, from my right ass cheek, which left a hole that was about 2 inches deep. Okay, like a gunshot, like a shotgun wound. Essentially, they had to cut out that dead flesh.
Y'all see that?
I wasn't dropped off at the hospital and left. I had one of my other line brothers that were with me at the time, which I thought he was really, concerned for my health. He really just was about damage control at that point, but left me over there at the hospital to get treated. I didn't know how to go through no damn surgery. When the doctors and the nurses saw what the actual injury looked like, I'm thinking it was like really nothing. They just had to bandage up or stitch something up. Nah, there was a pooling of blood. It was basically, my flesh was rotting, okay? And we have dead flesh, if you don't know about when it comes to the body, the human anatomy, you have dead flesh, essentially, that's also mixing with normal tissue. You have a situation where bacterial infection can happen, and that can cause some.
Y'all don't want that happening to your loved one, right? Right? Okay. All right. So that is how bad it can get. So sorry, I lost the earring. Let me put my earring back in. Okay. The next video, this is from she's also she says some not so good words as well. But this is someone who a few years ago, I think me and her kind of went back and forth on TikTok about this stuff, but I think she's kind of changing her position because of all this thing. And I kind of appreciated her stance this time around. Let's see where we're going. Let's go around here.
But it's not my entire personality.
Hold up. That's too fast. That's too fast. We're going to go there.
Something that I've done. It's something that I've accomplished. But it is not something that creates who I am. It is not something that changes my mindset on things. It's not that. Because not to diminish our organization at the same time, but it's merely an organization. I would have never allow an organization to tarnish who I am at its core. I think a lot of people are confused about what the Greek people who are the ones who are trying to hold this chapter accountable. I think a lot of people are confused at the things that we're saying. Because like I said, people are confused on why we're saying it needs to be difficult, why we're saying that it needs to be exclusive, all of these things. I kind of already explained that. But another thing is, I think that people believe that we are encouraging this behavior. And I want y'all to know that there is absolutely an internal battle happening within the Greek community. There's an internal battle that's been happening. What I will say is, I think a couple of things needs to happen. I think a couple of things needs to happen for us to correct course. Number one, I think there needs to be a moratorium, period. For everybody. Everybody needs to be paused right the fuck now. No lines for a minimum of 3 years. I think that we need to reevaluate the processes and see what a lot of people don't understand is the things that y'all hear, the bad things that y'all hear, the hazing, those things are not outlined. Those things are not being done in a legitimate way. That has the things that you are hearing about is not a part of the actual legitimate process that is outlined by our organizations. You know what I'm saying? Those things are being done by people who want to go rogue. Those are completely off the books. Those are people. Those are things that are happening that ain't got nothing to do with anything that ain't in the book. That ain't in the book, right? But a lot of that happened because of underground pledging. I do think that above ground pledging would be a step to prevent a lot of the bullshit from happening, because what's going to happen is it's public. People can see, people are experiencing, but it also brings that element of community back. Because like I said, especially with the girls, a lot of times the graduate members are not allowed to be a part of that process, legally speaking. So I think that if we bring that element back, where the community element, where graduate members of this specific chapter are allowed to be a part of this experience, are allowed to do that, I think that'll change a lot. Because somebody made a point on TikTok where it's like somebody will make a post on Greek shenanigans, like, you know, somebody strolling weird, somebody making a really weird post, and, you know, and people be in the comments like, where are they pros? Where are they pros? Baby, the pros is wrong. The pros crossed in 2020. Y'all forget that we're in 2025. The pros crossed in 2020.
So basically she's saying pro fight. So the girls who are like, you know, the older generation now of women in her sorority are, even them, they're still very young, and a lot of them don't have the, I guess what she's saying are the real traditions that were passed down. I don't know. I can't remember where it was. I thought I had the timestamp, but she basically said if this is the end of our organizations, then it'll be well worth it. Because, or if it's not well worth it, then okay, yeah, I don't think she said well worth it. I think what she was saying was, if this is the end of the organization, then so be it, because this never should have happened. And I'm just, you know, it's just good to see more people speaking out against this. People even like, let's see, yeah, let's go to Mark Lamont Hill, because typically I almost don't agree with this man on almost anything, but he did have the decency to come out and speak on this. So we'll play a few minutes of this.
And Human Jukebox band member, his name was Caleb Wilson. He lost his life after participating in an off-campus fraternity initiation ritual. He was in this aspirant or initiate or an applicant, I don't know his formal status, for Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And Wilson was unresponsive when friends rushed him to the hospital early Thursday morning. By the time they got there, it was too late. The doctors pronounced him dead, which has triggered a full investigation. Now, the entire school is feeling the impact of his death. And all Greek life, all student clubs, in fact, have been shut down indefinitely. I want to bring up really fast the statement. Also, we want you to see this young man as we tell the story. My heart goes out to him. My heart goes out to his family. I don't know if y'all know about it. It came out a couple years ago. It's an excellent film on hazing that I think is literally called Hazing. And it gets at the core of this. But we have to stop hazing. We have to stop hazing. I know some of you out there are going to say there's a distinction between pledging and hazing. I hear you. And there's a way that ideologically I don't disagree with you. There's a way that I can say that getting people to get into an organization by doing certain things builds character and builds teamwork and builds loyalty and all that stuff. I get it. And that's not the same as just beating people. But unfortunately, those lines are way too blurry. The black and the white has become gray. And at the end of the day, anything other than normal membership intake that is lawful is hazing. I'm not making an ideological point. I'm saying legally. You can't have people staying up all night driving you places. You can't have people getting you donuts. You can't have people giving you greetings in the basement. And you can't certainly beat people. It's not just for that's name fraternities. I'm just thinking about fraternities here, but it's also sorority. Same thing. You can't do this stuff. But every year somebody's getting seriously hurt. Every year somebody's dying. And as a Black Greek community, Black Greek letter organization community, there are such intense conditions right now that most of these organizations are one lawsuit away from extinction. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. They're one lawsuit away.
One lawsuit away. And y'all, let me see. Maybe I'll go ahead. No, I'll read a little bit from Black Greek 101. Sorry to like. This by Walter Kimbrough. This book goes back decades. And I think most people in fraternities and sororities are encouraged to read this, but how many of them actually read it, I don't know, but more of them should. Let's see. There was a page out of here I wanted to read. Oh, okay. So it talks about the amount of money that people in one particular instance had to pay. So y'all listen to this. Okay. The first death during the membership intake era produced the largest single settlement ever for a hazing case. For the death of Joel Harris in 1989, both Alpha Phi Alpha and Morehouse settled for about $500,000 each. The family then sued each member of the chapter there, approximately 30 students. The $30 million suit was projected to cost each man 20 to 25% of his earnings for a period of 20 to 25 years. They too settled for the maximum value of their parents' homeowners insurance policies, but the results of this case weren't highly publicized. The Hazing case in 94 at Indiana University produced a lawsuit that, after a jury trial in 97, cost Omega Psi Phi $774,500. As previously mentioned, the Omega Psi Phi fraternity settled for $375,000 in July of 1997 for the hazing of Joseph Snell at the University of Maryland. So, if you get caught up hazing, if you are lucky enough to escape a prison sentence, you can spend a lot of money, like for a long time. So definitely think before you participate in this stuff, because imagine just because you are a member of the chapter. I don't know if they sued all the members of the chapter because they were there, which is likely, like all of them had to be there. So yeah, if you participated, I guess that's fair. But imagine if you weren't there. Like, imagine if you was just like, I ain't doing that, but now you getting sued. That's insane. It's insane, I say. But to me, the math, again, it ain't mathing. It's not worth all the stuff that can happen to you. There was another page I wanted to read out of here too. Just if you have the book, I don't know if some of y'all got the book, but page 69, they talked about the process of deprogramming. So let me read. Okay, so we just talked about Joseph Snell. He was hazed by, I think they said Omega Psi Phi. Okay, even after the settlement, Snell was harassed and threatened when he attempted to return to the University of Maryland. Okay, now I remember. So Joseph, he went through a lot of bad stuff with Omega Psi Phi, and then he tried to report it to Nationals. Nationals basically ignored him. So then he pretended to be a girl and wrote a letter to them as this girl, and then that sparked an investigation. But then it sounds like he was kind of harassed because the people in the frat assumed that he was the reason that they were getting investigated. Okay. So Joe transferred, and in 1995 initiated a civil suit against the fraternity because the members failed to pay the bills that they had promised to pay. In 97, he was awarded $375,000. Lawyers for the fraternity argued that Snell could have and should have walked away, but Snell's father, a police officer himself, which is interesting because Caleb's father was a police officer too. But Snell's father, a police officer himself, in an interview with the Washington City paper, explained, the pledge process Joe went through closely parallels tactics described by the people who have later been deprogrammed from religious cults. Joe and other pledges were also told that the point of the hazing was to see if they could become the kind of leaders black folks need, the kind who could live up to Omega's ideals of perseverance and manhood. Deprogrammed like it was a religious cult. And I've been saying this for years too. It feels very religious with the prayers, and it's like an appropriation of black church culture, and then the rituals have like this King James type of ring to it. It's very, very strange. But yeah, $375,000, $500,000 a piece. Like, this is a lot of money. You know, that's life changing. And I think this book was written probably in the 90s. I think this was written like in the 90s, maybe early 2000s. So you can imagine how much money that would have felt like back then. You know what I'm saying? Okay, is there anything else I wanted to talk about tonight? I think I basically kind of said my piece. Oh, okay, I'll play this one too. This is another throwback video from me talking about all the things. Just to make a point that black fraternities and sororities kind of do have a reputation for violence, even for those who aren't in the organization. If you are caught wearing their clothes, and I know if you're not in it, you should not buy their stuff. You shouldn't wear it. As a Christian, I think lying is wrong because the Bible says that lying is wrong. But I also think if you're a service organization for the uplift of black people, that threatening someone because they're wearing your shirt probably isn't the best way to go either. But okay, let me get back to this video. Me again with the pixie cut. Okay.
Really, she did honestly put herself in danger, because some of these Greeks will hurt you if they catch you wearing their stuff and you're not part of the organization.
I'm talking so fast. Y'all listen to everything on double speed these days. Okay.
And here's some proof. Not perp our way or try to perp our way into a sorority or fraternity, because you're just gonna get blacklisted, blackballed, beat the F up probably some more and some more. Like, just don't do it. Okay, bye.
I think we can all agree, all D9 members, that if you're not a part of any D9, why the are you wearing D9 shit? If you're not a Kappa, if you're not Omega, why the fuck are you wearing? Why are you perping? Because
And if you don't make it, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, another thing.
I think it skipped something. I feel like it skipped. That was weird. Let's try again.
that's your. What's the point of perping? Dude, just go to alumni chapter and you can become wherever you want to become. So why the fuck are you perping? See, they gonna see you can lie, but somebody gonna catch you and you're going to get up and you're gonna be in a trick bag. So stop trying to perp something you're not. You didn't go through the process. None of that shit. Stop wearing that before somebody gets you.
There we go. There we go. Got it. And see the
stuff doesn't age very well, does it? I don't think that aged well at all for them. But so I said all that to say, you guys, just be careful. Talk to your cousins, nephews, sons, and daughters about this stuff, because it really is dangerous. And I would just hate for this to happen to another person. I pray that it never happens. I don't have anything personally against people in fraternities and sororities. A lot of these people are my friends, okay? But you just don't want this to be your person. It's always easy to say, oh, y'all taking it too serious, until it's your loved one that, has been taken out of here too quickly. And I did also want to say this, like, I think it's important that college students are kind of, that you kind of train them on what things are okay and not okay. Because when you get on a college campus, like, it's a different world, especially if you've never been out on your own to that extent before. And college students are especially vulnerable to religious cults. Now, me personally, I categorize those types of organizations as cults. I would even say religious cults. The secrecy, the brainwashing element to it, to me, I call that a cult. But it's kind of like a cult hiding in plain sight that everybody knows, or you can see, like, okay, there's some stuff going on. Maybe some of it isn't right, but it just is what it is. But then there's a lot of other cults that specifically target college students on those campuses. And if you don't have the gospel right, if you don't know how to discern, if you don't know the Bible, if you're not connected to a good church, you know what I mean? Like, you could find yourself, and people I'm sure are wondering, like, how in the world does somebody get caught up in this? It's not really as hard as you think. I don't know if y'all watched that TikTok cult documentary on Netflix about the family where it was the two girls, the sisters who were famous dancers on TikTok, and then one of the sisters got involved with this guy who ended up going to some cult church. So then she got sucked in. But see, the family they were basically like cultural Catholics, but they didn't really, it sounds like they weren't really, what in the world? Where these balloons came from? Did y'all see that? Probably my iPhone playing tricks on me. But okay, so the family, I think, were cultural Catholics, but they doesn't seem like they were really Christians, you know what I'm saying? So I think that made her especially vulnerable to not know what to look out for, because she didn't have a strong religious upbringing. It was just kind of that thing we do sometimes on Sundays. So I said all that to say, man, I think if you're going to go off to college, maybe finding a good church to get plugged into should be as much of a priority as the school that you're going to, because you're going to need community when you go on a college campus. All of us we're built to find, to be in community, to find friends and all that kind of stuff, or else it's going to be pretty lonely and just more difficult. And it's okay to get involved in stuff. You can do some service organizations. There's even different, I would say, certain Greek lettered organizations, they're not doing all that kind of stuff. But if they're doing that kind of stuff, I would steer clear. But honor societies, I think there's some nuance. I don't want to brush too broadly. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. But finding a good church, my goodness, that could make all the difference in the world. So you can ask your pastor, hey, Pastor so-and-so, they're asking me to do this thing, this ritual. Is this okay? He might be able to help you out. Or if you ask this person, hey, what are y'all doing, during these secret rituals? If they can't tell you, it's like, that should be a red flag right there. Why can't you tell me? You want me to sign my name here, give y'all $1,000, $2,000, whatever, to be associated with this group, but you can't tell me what's going to happen to me once I sign on the dotted line. As for me in my house, it's absolutely not. So yeah, y'all just be mindful of that kind of stuff. And that's really all I had to say about that. Hopefully this saves some lives. I'm glad that Culture Unplugged shared that video. I wonder if it's still up, because you know what, earlier, let's see, I'm just asking because I saw a video get taken down and I'm like, ooh, I hope that I hope I didn't play that video and I shouldn't have taken it down. Huh. We'll figure that out. No, it's still up there. Okay. All right. So anyway, let's see. Let me see if there's any comments. Nisha says Nick Jones posted not too long ago about the Hazing story. Yeah, I've been watching his commentary, and I saw that he was pulling some stuff from the TikTok crowd. They're an interesting crowd. Like it's stolen valor or something. I don't know what that comment's in regards to. Jordan says such a tragic loss for Caleb Wilson family. Absolutely. Christina says, I pray they all come out. This is gravely serious. This is really serious. And again, because it's so avoidable. Oh, there was something else I wanted to read. Sorry, you guys. I know I'm kind of scatterbrained. I'm all over the place. What was it? Okay. So earlier we showed the video with Ricky Jones. It's going to be real short. But he wrote a little section in this Hazing book. Actually, no. They quoted, this might have came from his book, Black Haze. But here's what Ricky Jones said. Okay, it says, Jones again succinctly provides that same explanation for why black males not only haze others, but stand tall and take all punishment thrown their way in order to become a member of an organization prized by them and their role models. Okay. So Ricky says the dependence on the physical often occurs because many black men feel rightfully or wrongfully that they are not privy to the same opportunities to define themselves as their white counterparts in the U.S. That social and political marginalization helps to promote the black man's search for alternate arenas in which he can be regarded as a man. One way to define manhood that has emerged, particularly in black interracial interactions, is to be physically dominant or able to withstand physical abuse. In this manner, physical toughness eventually can be equated with manliness, and this phenomenon carries over into black fraternities. This reality helps to explain why many individuals continue to submit to hazing. They feel that it affirms their toughness and manhood. Yeah. And then there's this other short little section I wanted to read out of here. This isn't by Ricky Jones. This is by Ashley Stone. She wrote this chapter. She says hazers can be charged with simple assault, battery, kidnapping, false imprisonment, manslaughter, or murder. Criminal liability can even be extended to individuals who assist or encourage hazing or who aid and abet or assist in the crime. So again, just think carefully about these things. Warn your kids about these things before they go off to college, because the draw to pledge it's a pretty strong draw. And you know what it's like to be young and just want to be accepted. You can make some bad decisions. So you know, that kind of goes back to what somebody else was asking, like, well, why would you do this? And you know what? The more I learn about like Jehovah's Witnesses and what brainwashing really looks like, the reworking of the brain, my goodness, it's it's amazing really what people can influence you to do if you really just are vulnerable and don't know what red flags to look out for, what signs to look out for, especially if you're not strong in your faith and you don't have a solid moral compass. We're living in an age where now people, they can't even say that truth exists. They can't say that morality exists, or objective morality. Right? So it's just whatever's right for me is right for me. But just because it's right for me doesn't mean it's right for you. I determine my own morals. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. God determines what is right and what is wrong. So if you don't have that moral standard, you can just really be vulnerable to any type of thing, because you know what I mean? Okay. All right, let me scroll back through these comments one more time. I enjoy y'all. If you are watching me still, I got 100 people watching. I only got 36 thumbs up. Y'all, please give this video a thumbs up. Please share it with your friends, and share the gospel with these people, because my closing thought is, what's the saddest thing about hazing deaths is you don't know what happens to a lot of these people once they close their eyes. And, once you've crossed over, that's it. That's it. Now, as Christians, we believe that if you put your faith and your trust in Jesus Christ alone on the cross, repent, turn away from your sins and trust in him, then you receive eternal life. But if you have not done that, then you will not receive eternal life. And it's just unfortunate because the Greeks, I feel like, fraternities and sororities, often what they do is what's called syncretism. They blend a lot of different religious ideas and concepts, and they kind of indoctrinate their members with these syncretistic ideas, right? So all these different religions. And so they try to say it's Christian, but really when you look at the rituals and their content, it's not Christian. It really is based on a lot of these things that you see in Freemasonry, which is basically like Unitarianism or Universalism. So it's not really Christianity by what we would call Orthodox Christianity, historical Christianity. So I said all that to say, you got these kids, some of them losing their lives to be in these organizations. And these organizations are feeding them false gospels, basically. So if you have a false gospel and then you die in a hazing accident, you know what I mean? Like, so not only are they injuring you on this side, like if you lose your life without Christ, that is the worst thing that can happen to somebody. So I basically said my piece. I love you guys. I enjoyed this. Hopefully we don't have to do any more of these kind of discussions in the future. But yeah, talk to your people, talk to your young people, because all this could have been avoided. You know what I mean? All right. So y'all have a blessed night. I'm gonna go ahead and get prepared for tomorrow, and I'll catch y'all at the next live stream.